Come to me, Mikhail. Should we wait more? No? We can start? Okay. Okay. I'm Dušan Stojičević. I'm coming from Serbian National Registry. And we are dealing with one IDN, especially Cyrillic domain. And this session is all about IDNs. Who are familiar from you with IDNs? Who know what IDN means? Michele, I know you. Okay. Okay, so we must explain to rest of you what is IDN, and after that we will have questions from you about this. So first, and I must introduce to you my panelist. First, Yuriy Kargopolov from Ukrainian Network Information Center. Next to him, sitting Vojislav Rodić, also from Serbia. Next to him is Iliya Bazlyankov from Unicart, Bulgaria, and gender, no, okay, Lianna from Armenia Internet Society. So our keynoter is Yuriy. He will try to explain what is DNS, what is IDN. So please, Yuriy.
Thanks, Dušan. I remember the first 0 years when the answer to the question why we do need IDN did not understand a lot of people, and it was like question from science fiction. After appears the themes and discussions about diversity, about linguistic diversity. It was first IGFs, and it was legendary ICANN meetings in 06, 08, in Rome, in Lisbon, in Paris especially. In those time to find new ways in our domain industry. And at last in Sharm el-Sheikh was started a program to CC country code top level domain IDN by fast track program. And after this was started a new GTLD program including IDN. Okay, I don't want to give to estimation good or not good these processes, because the subject plane of these responses and evaluations must be in another logical space. Was a logical space? It's space of our success, of our failures in the implementation on new domain. So we cannot raise the question again, do we need an IDNS? We need to put a question, what have we done that IDNS are became available to people? So the internet reflects only real life, only reflect. Of course, the internet expands borders of real life, but internet doesn't create new objective realities, and in which people are compared to life in the limited linguistic environment. Limited in linguistic environment. And when the person leaves internet environment, internet space, he or she come back in real life. And in this real life, we come back to our own semantic system, our own system, our own words, system, our sign. And when the person come back to the internet, she or he wants to operate with the same system. What's the system? Such system consists of content as is, and system of tags or marks which specify what content the user wants to operate, wants to work. Now we realize that we are not alone, and that many countries, especially in Asia, want to see the full linguistic relevance and diversification in the domains through the various types of addresses and texts in the original scripts of this country. Now we can see as a global world trend of growth processes of clusterization. Clusterization of real life. Clusterization appear a new world financial centers, new production centers, the energy supply centers, the information centers. From point of view of IT view, from point of our view, in these circumstances, it is objective processes to involve an increasing number of users and information contacts in the global network, and these users operated your native languages, not only system of science based on the Latin scripts. A natural way from whom wants to enter into information space via learning of information tools on native languages. Therefore, the solution of IDN problem is so important and must be absolutely clear for all technical decisions and decisions for internet governments in general sense. I want to note that we have now two more critical IDN implementation points. The first of all is IDN email. The second is IDN URL, URI. And if we solve this problem, we open the wide way for IDN processes for simple people. A few months ago, I think 2 months ago, appears a fourth version of the draft of IDNA update for Unicart 7.0.0 by John Clancy and Patrick Falstrom. There were two main ways for solve this problem. The first way is using Unicart for solve our problem in email and URL, URI. But Unicart give us more negative results because Unicart not solve the problem of local part in domain, in email names, in email address. In the main part, Unicode works, and it works and normally works. But in local part, it's not work.
Yuriy,
normally.
I must stop you for one thing. I will ask you to tell the audience what is Unicode, what is Unicode, because they are not familiar with those names. Sorry.
Unicode is algorithm of transforming any scripts to Latin scripts. And one of the any name in native alphabet, in any native alphabets may be transferred to Latin scripts. This is Unicode. Unicode, in Unicode you may operate it your native scripts in internet.
Thank you.
Is understanding? And I repeat that we go on the two ways. The first way is we go to way of Unicode. Unicode is not working way. And what we can do in this situation? I think we should examine it the Unicode way. And in the Unicode we have a problem too, because Unicode 8, the version of Unicode 8 consists some traps for us. And when we examine with issues, we understanding that we must transfer to Unicode 32 version. Maybe in this way we find solving our problem.
Thank you, Yuriy. So, did you understand the story of IDNs? No? Voya? Let's start again.
Thank you. Can you open my presentation? Yeah, is it working? Okay. My presentation will overlap with some of the things that Yuriy said, and I will expand on some issues. So, I just made some personal mental computation. I got internet when I was 35, and my first computer when I was 25. Now you try to imagine what was working without internet on a computer for 10 years. Anyway, that means that more than half, I'm still not 70, so more than half of my life I was without internet. When I finally got it, there was no question of typing not just in Cyrillic, and in Serbia we use both Cyrillic and Latinic with diacritics, 30 letters, not even that Latin, but only English alphabet with 26 characters, and you could have domain names plus the numbers and the dash. So come to think of it, are those 26 characters of English alphabet really enough to express, or better say compress, all the 5,000 to 7,000 years of written human civilization, and all the scripts and all the letters and all the living languages. Let's just focus on the living languages. When I talk to people in Serbia, why do we need IDN domain? They often say, look, for more than 10 years, we can have our content, which means emails, website pages, in Cyrillic. So what's the problem if the domain name is in English alphabet? You can still have, and we usually do have, a lot of websites with Serbian Cyrillic, Latinic, and English. So what's the problem? It's just an address. Well, it's not just an address. It's also content. Domain name is a very important part of your identity, whether you're personally, your organization, and that's why there are so many new GTLDs. People felt too constrained with 22 generic top-level domains, and often a client of mine would say, should I take .com or .net? And okay, I'm not an organization, so not a .org. Now they have a wider variety of domain names. One of them is the CCTLD in IDN. And just a brief on the history and what is IDN. As Yuriy said, it's an internet domain name that supports domain names written in multiple scripts, including all those that we are familiar here in this area with Cyrillic script, but let's not forget the Arabic, the Chinese, and many other languages and scripts. The IDN was first proposed in 1996 by Martin Durst and implemented in 1998 by Tan Joy Quang and Len Kok Yong, and James Schenck was credited as the primary inventor of IDN. That was the end of the 90s. Only in 2010, so it took 10 years. It was not an easy process. When ICANN board on meeting in Korea approved the IDN CCTLD fast-track process, and the first IDN CCTLDs were implemented, written into the root zone, or became live in 2010. So it was the Russia with .rf, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates with the Arabic scripts. Some of the requested IDN domains were initially rejected, and our hosts have a very, I don't know if you will tell your story now, or shall we leave it for it's a happy end. Yes, they have .bg or BG, Bulgaria.
Hollywood
or is
way.
it Brazil? I still confuse it.
Happy end with Hollywood way.
Yes, after more than 4 years.
Even more.
Even more. It's not just about the separate Cyrillic IDN domain names. There are the regular domain names in which the character set was expanded. So they are also IDN. What's the difference? In .rs in Serbia, we have .rs, just English alphabet. .serb, Cyrillic. But we don't have in .rs still, we plan to do that. We don't have all those Latin characters with the critical marks, ch, ch, sh, zh, etc. So first, who did that were Italians, and in the .it, they expanded it to support Italian, French, and German. What I always point out is the Norwegian example, .no. They expanded their character set with three different character sets of Sami people. So you might ask, how many of those Sami people, why are they so important? Well, the total number of Sami people, they live in the north of Norway, is 35,000. And so it's about human rights. It's not about how many users do we have. If we have 35,000 Sami people and they have 3 characters, let's put all those 3 characters into the .no domain space so they can register their domains. The puny or punny code, I think it's puny code, you are right. Let me show you an example. When you copy an address line which has .serb in it and paste it into Notepad, the address, you will get something like this, xn dash dash, then some numbers and letters. What is one of the effects? When you ask me, what is the allowed domain name length in .rs? 63 characters, which means 26 English alphabet, 10 numbers, and dash. So the same question, how long can my domain name be in .serb? It's also 63 characters after the ASCII compatible encoding. So that's an elegant way to get out of the very unpleasant situation. We cannot tell our customers, our registrants, how long can their name be in Serbian Cyrillic. That depends on what letters you use and what you will get as a result after the ASCII compatible encoding. That's the Peony code. The email addresses, I will not, we will talk about it, and Yuriy already made the introduction. This is the timeline of the Serbian registry. I will not go through the dates and bother you with all those details, and you have the presentation for reference. But please note that we had first a public debate on the need for Cyrillic domain. Do we need it? So we consulted the public. They said, yes, we need it. Then we had a public debate on what should it be. It's always not the register who says we are going to be .bg, .rs, .de. It is the request that they ask from ICANN. Andrea is there. And when ICANN approves your request, then you get a domain name. Or sometimes you get rejected because your domain name looks similar to some other existing or future, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we made a public debate in Serbia. The winners were .serb and .serbia. And when we requested for an IDN domain, we asked, please, if you can make it one of these two. In 98 or 99% of situations, you are granted what you ask for. But it's not something that you appoint to yourself, your domain name. That's when we started. Then we had another, we created, when we were allowed to have, when we were delegated, that's the term, .serb. And the register had to go to the process. We didn't get it because we already managed .rs. No, we had to go through all the steps that we went in the first place for .rs, just as we are a new register, because we actually wanted a new domain, a new CCTLD. Then we had a public debate on the principles and rules of registering in Cyrillic domain, where we used the ICANN and our rules and regulations, what is known as the Internet best practice, although I suspect that in various parts of the world, Internet best practice might mean very, very different things. And we also protected the existing .rs registrants. Because, as I said in the beginning, domain name is not just an address. It's linked to your identity. If you have a certain domain in .rs, whether you want or not the one in .serb, we made it reserved for you. Through a number of some of the rules for reservation are very complicated. So, as an example with the Sami people in Norway, why did we go for this? Because today we have 86,000 .rs domains and just a little bit over 3,000 .serb domains. The reasons are partly those that Yuriy talked about, the technical problems. So it's actually not a finished product yet, the IDN domain. It's a half product, but it is a basic right, and that's why we need it. Of course, it was also very important for us to make a reservation of domain space for future use. Internet of Things is just around the corner. And what it will mean, I think it will be next year's subject of many conferences like this. These are the examples of various Internet of Things applications for Cyrillic domains, the same as the Romans. This is, again, the rule limitation is actually the same as in Latin alphabet domain name, but only after ASCII compatible encoding, which means that, yes, we type .serb without the www. For instance, I have Rodić. You type Rodić with ch in Cyrillic .serb, but it actually translates into something like this: xn / and then there are those numbers. So actually, we are still using the ASCII notation. But that's the machine problem. Machines are good at doing that and reading those addresses. It's for us the domain name is important as a symbol, as an association, as a brand, you name it. We started in 2012. At that time, 33 out of 35 registrars were Serb ready. In the first year, it costed only $1. So we had more than 5,000 domains. Then when the regular price, and that's the usual, as with all new GTLD domains, you know, I don't want to name names, but those that were free in the first year, one city in Germany, they had 140,000 new domains free. But after the first year, the next year was, you know, some price. So that's also important. So right now we have a domain which is underutilized, which doesn't have full functionality, but which enables people, and there are already some very interesting projects done on the .serb domain. Was it short enough? Brief?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, boy. So, do you know now about this IDN? I can bring the third guy to show you, if you want. So, Voja mentioned that this is a basic right of us, and I want to raise, and I want to tell you, I raise one question of our region. We are on SEEDIG, and we must speak our language, and in our language, IDN IDN is on, I think, 3 scripts: Greek alphabet, Cyrillic, and Latin, if I am correct.
You're not
Armenia,
correct.
sorry, Armenian 4, and Georgian, yes, sorry. So, how many IDN domains do you think we have in the region? We have Greek from last year, .epsilon lambda. We have Macedonia with .mkd, Cyrillic one. We have Bulgaria, .bg.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet, but it will be. We have Armenian.
Yeah, we have high.
Hi, okay. And you heard from Yuriy.Ukr, very successful Cyrillic domain, and our Serbian. So, .rf, not in the region. If you put south, southeastern, not southeastern, if you.
We can include Russian as well.
We can include .rf. So, basically, do you think that we need IDN? Do you use Cyrillic or Latin with special characters, or do you, or Greek alphabet? Do you use keyboards on those?
Thank you. Let me first say that we introduced the Greek characters under .gr domain name in 2005, when the IDNA protocol was not finalized. We had some issues with Final Sigma and things like this. Until now, it's about 6,000 domain names with the second level Greek and the first .gr. But as the two gentlemen said in the beginning, it's not about getting money. in a society like Greece, you have the opportunity with the Cyrillic language to alphabet to appoint to a larger community which use this script. But in our case, it's not to get money. It's the identity, like you said. It's the cultural diversity. It's the cultural identity and it's a basic right to have the Greek language on the internet. And that is the reason why we applied for an IDN SEEssion, which is not officially launched yet, but we are in the process.
Thank you. Thank you. So, anybody else?
Thank you very much. Elvana Thaci from the Council of Europe. To answer to your question, do we need IDNs? I think we do. And I would echo here the point about cultural diversity. Cultural diversity is an aspect of freedom of expression. And I fully agree with Mr. Rodić when he said that domain names are not only technical, do not only have a technical function, or an addressing function in the internet, they also have expressive value. So people can choose a name for a domain that has an expressive value, that conveys a political point of view, that conveys whatever point of view, not only political. So in that sense, domain names are vehicles of freedom of expression, as well, of freedom of speech. They are vehicles, they are tools of cultural diversity. This is the policy approach of the Council of Europe. We have our governments, our 47 governments have agreed on this position, that domain names are more than technical addressing tools on the internet. Thanks.
Aleksandar, you want?
Okay, I'm the reporter of this session, so I have to make one remark or to reply to this question. Do we need IDNs? I will just overlap with the last speaker. This is definitely a need for linguistic diversification in the globalization that internet brings. As an elementary human right to use your own mother language or your script. This is a remarkable tool to store, to preserve national or linguistic specifics. And I would like to thank first two panelists for their very comprehensive technical and I would say historic review from real doers and not just theoreticals.
Thank you, Aleksandar. So, we say yes. I could say that we are saying yes, we need IDNs. Yes, we will answer after host and Lianna. So I was dying to hear Hollywood story with happy endings. So Iliya, back to you.
The happy ending is not yet there. We need a couple of months, but let's tell the story. In 2007, there was a public discussion in Bulgaria, should we have an IDN SEEssion or not, what it should be. And later, via various polls, it was determined that it should be only .bg and nothing else, because this represents Bulgaria, and any other string will be inappropriate. When ICANN approved the IDN SEEssion fast track program,
after 6 years?
Yes. We managed to organize with the government to submit the first application in 2010, which was rejected. Then from 2010 until October 2014, so for 4 years, we held many discussions, many meetings with different officials, different groups, but without any success. The official ICANN position was that the proposed string is confusingly similar to something else. So it was never said it's Brazil or Burkina Faso or something else. Finally, in 2014, when ICANN introduced the appeal procedure in the fast track, our government sent the application in March 2014. Then in October, during the ICANN meeting in LA, it was announced that the Bulgarian CCTOD was finally approved. I was in LA at that time, but I remember many stories in the press reading during the night. So everybody was congratulating the team of from the government with Mr. Christov. Then the government decided to make a public process how to select the registry operator. Since October up to next week is the final meeting of a working group that was created by the government to determine the rules of this public process. Then we expect in 90 days, which won't happen in the summer, so I guess in September, a public process will start when the government will start to accept applications from interested parties to operate the IDN CCTOD. And whoever party wins this process will receive a governmental letter of support for Lianna. If everything is on track, I expect that the Lianna delegation request will be done maybe January next year. So hopefully 2016, almost many years after the first idea, we will have an IDN CCTOD. So that's why I said it's not yet happy ending, but we hope so.
Okay. I'm starting to feel that ICANN is something. So we will go to Armenia because Armenia had another story. And
Yeah.
Lianna.
Thank you. Yeah, we have another story with Armenian IDN. It doesn't take too much time for us. The difficult part was to start the initiation with the interest of nation to have the IDN, the Armenian IDN. Yes, I completely agree with you, Mr. Rodić, saying that this is a national identity issue. When we started the discussion in the community whether we need the IDN or not, it was around 10 years ago. We found out that the community is not really ready for Armenian IDN. So the content was poor, the people don't know what is internet so much, it is not so popular, the users are not so many in quantity. But within this decade, the number of internet users has grown immensely, and the interest and the content has been enriched. And we started, when I say we, I mean Internet Society of Armenia, which has a great job in great work in country. We initiated a discussion. We had a conference, we had some councils regarding the same issue. Do we need IDN now? And it was in 2012, and we found out that the community is now ready for it. We want to have our own scripts shown, implicated in the internet. And I need to say that the Armenian script is already 16 centuries. We have our national scripts, and we deserve the right to have all our people. That we have around 10 million population within the whole world. We have 3 million in Armenia, but we have a great diaspora throughout the world. So 10 million people really need to have the right to see their script, to write in our national script. All these discussions has ended up in the last year, in 2014. We prepared a lot of documents necessary for this application to ICANN. We had a support from the Ministry of Transport and Communication, and since Armenia is the CCTLD of .am, we initiated to become a manager of IDN as well, and we have this support from National Authority, which I said Ministry. We had a letter of support from the Linguistic Institute regarding this script for .hi, which means it is the name of our nation, Armenian. Like in Armenian, it is the name of our nation. We had another debate regarding the script, what should be the IDN for Armenian. We had a suggestion that it should be could be which the script is age like age. Means the Republic of Armenia. But we understood that that is not the best option because it will be limited only throughout the Republic. Since we have the diaspora, it is not the best option. And we chose the name Hai, which is our nation. And we had the support from Linguistic Institute. We have the support from the Academy of Sciences, and we put it all the support letters. We submitted the application on April 25th. And a year later, that is to say on April 26th, we had the resolution of the board of ICANN that we now have it delegated, and we received lots of congratulations on this work as well, and I feel somehow proud of that work that ISOC did. It was a great thing, and we expected it with so much passion. Now, a year later, we have this right to have our national IDN. And we are in a process of still launching it. So it is not the case like Bulgaria, that the government has this right to choose, but now we have this right to register. It is an NGO. The ISOC will be the manager. And since we are an NGO, we are an open society, we will make this open for the whole community. We will start from the sunrise and then to give the whole process open for everyone to register whatever domain name they would like to.
Okay, there is a need for this kind of domains, but can we make money up on that? Panos told us there is no money. Iliya put another hat and told us a story about .site and .online.
Can I mention briefly before the .bg business one
okay.
we were just discussing with some of the stakeholders is that such registry is no way to gain money, must be supported from other activities.
Yes.
We don't see any option to self-sustain such project because we expect like 3,000 registrations, which is not much.
.site and .online together.
I talk about .bg.
Yeah.
Okay.
.bg.
So I put the other hat.
Yes. Please.
I also represent Core Association, which in 2012 applied for 2 new IDN GTODs, .site and .online, in Cyrillic, with a target market in Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and Bulgaria. Unfortunately, not in Serbia. We did have some expectations, which in the ICANN business plan were 50,000 for the first year. But as almost all business plans given to ICANN, this has been lowered several times. And we managed to reach first year about 6,000 together, .site and .online. 6,000 together. And we see like a couple of names registered per month now, but the growth is very, very, very slow. We noticed a significant drop of the registration amount when in Russia the financial problems appeared and people stopped buying domain names. And Russia was our biggest market.
Yuriy, you want?
The wave of crisis. The big wave of big crisis covered us. Because in our plans was about minimum 100,000 domains. Now we have 11,500 only.
Which is good number. Yes?
Maybe for him, for somebody it's good, for us it's not good, and many marketing ways and many attempt for acceleration for registration is not give us results. I think it's connected with real not good economical and financial situation is in our country in particular, in our country. But may I ask a question to auditory?
Yeah. Yes.
Please put your hand who have trademark on your mother language. No. Imagine you have. Imagine you have. The best protection of your trademark in internet in this case is using of IDN.
Okay. Voja, how the things going in Serbia? I know, but they don't know. So
I would like to switch the tables and ask, is there any money in opera? I mean, every Saturday until May, I listen to live broadcasts from Metropolitan Matinee, Saturday afternoon in New York, that's Saturday evening in Belgrade. And at the same time, usually on Saturdays, you have folk and pop stars concerts with 15, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people. Now, who makes more money? Of course, they make more money. I think there are more spectators in one football field or big dome where they have their concerts, much more than those who listen to Radio Belgrade 2 live transmission. So does it mean that we don't need opera or live transmission from Metropolitan, which costs money, of course? So there are certain things in life, in society, and I would like to add, you said that it's important to preserve the national identity. Yes, that's true, but it's not just national identity, it's also a personal identity. I was irritated for years. I had Rodić or Rodić.rs as my personal domain name, but I could not have Rodić.serb. Now I have it. First of all, there have to be technical conditions for me to register it. What am I doing with it? Nothing much. I'm waiting for the email to become functional, and then I could have voja@rodić.serb as a functioning email. So there's no money in it, but I have put my foot in the IDN Cyrillic door in Serbia regarding my personal interests. And a lot of people like that too, and companies.
thank you. So we can conclude there is no money in it. There is problems. There are problems. This is half of a product, and etc., etc. And still, we want it. I don't understand. Do you have a clue about that?
I think that that's not all about money. It's about passion, love. It's about identity. It's about freedom. I think that if we talk about language diversity and preserving or giving the possibility to do not lose the diversity we have, I think this is, should be by default supported by any public institution, other stuff, if we don't want just to become one single speaking country, only English, bastard English. I think it's a richness.
Thank you. Any more? Oh, Aleksandar.
To all the panelists, during the process of starting new IDN CC, TLD IDN, a number of domain names are being reserved. Who reserves those domain names and why? Can you explain us?
Yes, some of the domain names are reserved for the registry itself, then for the state, municipalities, etc. The same procedure as we had with .rs. Plus, in the first 6 months, we had a reservation for all the existing users of .rs. The rules were transliteration, which created problems for those, and there were about 40% of them, who had actually English names as the names of their companies with W, X, Y, and there is no transliteration, and again, transliteration, not transcription. Letter by letter. Well, there is no equivalent of W in Serbian Cyrillic, or X or Y. So we were thinking, what are we going to do? I was the coordinator of the working group creating the rules. So some of us said, well, they can't have, we cannot reserve a domain name for them. It's simply impossible. But then, and then we come again to the field of rights. If some of them have the right to have a Cyrillic transliterated domain name waiting for them for 6 months, during which time it was reserved and they could register it, how can you allow that right to 60% of people and companies and not to 40%? So we devised a rule which was very cumbersome, and I remember that when people read it for the first time, they say, what's wrong with these people from .rs? Because for W you had 3 letters like J, L, N, completely improbable combination. So who would use it? Well, I guess nobody. So why did we do it? So that everybody has the right. Now I would like to, for all of you to think a little bit about that, whether it makes sense. But at one point in our discussion, we said, okay, if all of them have reserved names for 6 months, even those for whom the meaningful translation is impossible. I mean, some people said, well, if it's Windows, then it's V in Cyrillic. Wait a minute. Who says it's an English word? Maybe it's German, maybe it's French. Volkswagen, it's VW. V, which is transliterated to a V in Cyrillic, is V. Well, that's something completely different. That's why we are not in the transcription, but transliteration. So we made a silly rule only to, there was also an advice by the lawyer who said, that was one of the points. Make some rule, but so that everybody has something reserved for them. There are other examples, like, okay, I will use a famous brand name, Philips. It's written Philips. TVs and, everybody knows about Philips. In Serbia, they had actually the same Latin characters, Philips, Philips.rs. What would be reserved for them was Philips.Srb. Well, that makes no sense because we say Philips. What they need is actually Philips with an F. So what could they do? They could register, even in the first 6 months, Philips in Latin, and then they will get reserved for them corresponding .serb domain. So there are a lot of funny situations that you can bump into when preparing rules for a new domain, especially if it was just the first domain. If we didn't have anything before, it would be easy. Now, if we want, and we plan to expand the .rs with all the registered national communities in Serbia, so there are many Latin scripts. I think there are 20, how many, 26. For instance, Montenegrins in Serbia, they're a national minority. They have both Latin and Cyrillic, but with 32 letters, not with 30 like in Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, and Slovenia. So we will expand our .rs with additional characters, but in that case, you don't have to apply to icon. It's still the same CCTLD. That's what Italy did with .it. That's what many other countries all over Europe have done over years. Poland, I think they have all the letters from most of the languages.
Thanks. Thanks. Do you have anything else about that? Yes, Lianna.
Just to reply to that question regarding the reservations. We plan to have those domains which will be necessary for a registry itself to reserve it, like the alphabet, the numbers, or whatever, the geographic names. But the situation is a little bit different, what you're talking about, the Latin domain owners. We thought that those who have like cyber squatters or domainers, they have already registered their domain names in Latin script, and we are not sure at those times we didn't have a clear picture of protecting the trademark owners or company name owners, so that to give them the priority registration right for that domain name in .am. And now when we are starting the process with all these things known already, we don't want to give them this priority again to register the domain name in IDN as well. So we will start the process from zero, from a clear paper, so that to protect the trademark owners and company owners to have the right to register their domain names in IDN. And only after that, we will open the registration for everybody else.
Thanks.
We protect trademarks and other intellectual properties via sunrise period.
We'll
After sunrise period, it's all open for and any subject can register any trademarks. But we have reserved domain names. It's connect with geographic names and name of government bodies.
Yes.
Okay.
Only two categories.
Okay, boy.
I have a question if there is anyone from ICON in the audience.
So you can speak freely
I could
about ICON.
I would ask
Yes, we
him
will
or
have.
her to explain, as we have seen today that there were two examples of big problems. Two countries had big problems with starting an IDN domain name because of the similarity problem. So what is the similarity problem? I would like an ICON spokesperson to answer.
First, I want from Panos the story. I want another Hollywood story with happy ending.
Thank you, Dušan. Let me introduce, because I didn't do it the first time. My name is Panagiotis Papaspiliopoulos. I'm working for the Ministry of Infrastructure of Greece. So, as I was saying, in 2005 we introduced the Greek at the second level under .gr, and in 2007, 6, I don't remember, we asked ICANN to at that time ICANN had a project about IDNs. So we want to test two-letter string and the full name of the country in Greek in small letters with accents and without accents, because as I said, the IDNA protocol was not finalized. So after a public consultation we did, we finally concluded to use epsilon lambda, that is only two letters. Let me remind you here that when speaking about letters, the Latin, the Greek, and the Cyrillic alphabet has letters. The other languages do not have alphabets, they have ideograms or combination, so we talk about strings. So that is the beginning of the confusability problem. So we said to apply for epsilon lambda because there was no accent, there was no final sigma, and then the people were used in two-letter string as the top-level domain. And doing the same procedure, we consulted with the Republic of Cyprus in order to give our proposal to the European Commission for the Greek version of EU. With the same philosophy, the proposal that we did was both countries, Greece and Cyprus, was to apply for .epsilon. It's the first two letters of the word Evropi, Europa. In Europe, it's a Greek word. So we initially had our application rejected because of confusability problems. Epsilon lambda in Greek, small Greek characters were confusably similar with the EA, the English two-string assigned to Theot and Melia for custom reasons. And we made a long fight, hidden and open fight in the ICANN environment to persuade what you said in your presentation, that the machine distinguishes this. The machine does not see the Greek or the Cyrillic. The machine sees only the 26 letters of the English alphabet with a hash and the numbers. So I think that people in ICANN were very afraid of the change. The IDNs was in their minds a major change to introduce some strange marks of strange people's languages inside the holy root zone file, which was not the case, because these strange marks was actually XN, dash, dash, etc. So, and this was one thing. The second thing is that the average internet users were already familiarized with confusability issues. And take the example that I like to use, .it for Italy and .lt for Lithuania. I could take a domain name papaspiliopoulos.it, papaspiliopoulos.lt, and the only thing that the ICANN people were looking at was the last two letters. And I could take them, but I could not take in Greek my name. So it was insane. So I think that was the reason for creating the confusability issues, where there were no any such problems, and there is no problem with the Greek version of EU as well. It's a purely political issue, I believe that. And I hope that eventually and quickly it will be resolved. So this was the case in us. And you can see that because in the introduction of the new GTLDs, there were not such issues. You can have sports, autos, IDNs, whatever you like. No problem. People, the same people who took the decisions, were not afraid anymore. And that is why they were persuaded by people like Iliya, like me, like many others who were involved in this hidden diplomacy, to change the the procedure and introduce the appeal panel. And now we can all have, and now that I said my little story, let me take 1 minute more, 2 minutes. 1 minute is, it will be, 1 minute it will be for the implementation of the IDN when we will finally conclude to our procedure. For the reason that you all mentioned, we initially decided the same registry of .gr to have also the registry of epsilon lambda. At the introduction of the Greek at the second level domain, we had set the rules for protecting the trademarks and also to protect the people and protect to regulate, let's say, the homograph. The homograph names are, for example, Nike and Nike. You'll know the sports.
Personal identification.
Sorry?
Personal identification.
Okay, so we made the rules. I don't want to bother you, but you can find the regulation. There is a bundle of names with accent, without accent, and there are certain rules. And that is why we said we have the same registry for GR and epsilon lambda. Of course, we will follow all the procedures. And about the money, it's the second minute that I want to ask. Yes, I said in the beginning that we don't expect to have money. But there is a key issue here. The new GTLDs are, they follow the UDRP regulation set by ICANN. It's common for all the new GTLDs. As the Armenians, we also have, let's say, 20 million Greeks around the globe, 10 inside Greece and 10 outside Greece. And we have the unique opportunity to address to them, provide them new content, give inspiration to innovative people who will use content in Greek language, and have, let's say, a GTLD with a Greek regulation addressed to Greek people, to people who speak Greek, to people who want to learn and to use Greek, not only Greeks necessarily. So that gives us a unique opportunity to have a GTLD for all the Greek literature people around the globe with our regulation. And I think, okay, in the beginning we will have a small amount of registration, but we can survive and have all the rest that I said in the beginning. Thank you very much for your time. I hope, Megan, the Greek problem will solve very soon. You have our support and help whenever you need. And thank you very much for letting me say these things. Thank you.
Thanks, Panos. Misha, you were raising your hand.
Well, I raised my hand because I was asked whether there is anyone from ICANN. It was the only reason why I did it. I maybe didn't understand fully the question, which was addressed about this situation of confusions. But I am from Russia, and I was the chairman of the .rf.ru CCTLD when we received the .rf, the first IDN from ICANN before I joined ICANN. So I'm ready to answer mostly as a Russian, as a representative of the TLD community rather than from ICANN. To my view, there are some obvious issues where there is exact similarity between a Latin letter and a Cyrillic letter. And the classic case is RU, as R for P and U for Y, which is a total equivalent of PY for Paraguay. And that is why the IDN for Russia could not be .ru, which would be the equivalent of .ru in English, because of this fact. All other, excuse me, all other cases, they are less evident. And for example, I'm sure that for all Russians who just know Russian language Cyrillic script, the BG in Bulgarian has nothing to see with BR for Brazil. So it's graphically, it's obvious for everyone who uses this script. And frankly, the same for Greece. Epsilon lambda doesn't have any exact anything in Latin alphabet. But we should take into consideration that mostly ICANN was an English-speaking company, where the experts were also English-speaking or speaking other languages based on Latin script. And for them, yes, it was an exercise. It is still an exercise to understand the problems of the people who do not use the Latin alphabet. And that is why maybe for them it was more important to overreach rather than to do something underdone. Yeah? As Russians say, лучше что-то бдеть, чем недобдеть. То есть, those who understand this, it's good to do something more than just to have something underdone. But the situation is changing, and we know the positive cases for our Bulgarian colleagues, and I think it's good. And unfortunately, I'm not from the department which is engaged in GDD and domain names problematics. My task is engagement. And I'm sure that the more the people like Yuri, like yourself, like yourselves participate in ICANN meetings and ICANN activities to avoid the unfortunate situation that we mentioned, then the number of such situations will be less. And our English-speaking colleagues will not be so afraid for the changes, and they will be more cooperative to accept what other stakeholders would like, especially the stakeholders with other graphic system of the alphabets.
Thank you, Misha. So, I have another question, because I suddenly realized that I cannot use, for example, Greek. I don't know Greek alphabet, and I cannot use Armenian. I don't even have a clue what is there. So are we doing something that is dividing internet? I have one word that is too heavy for our region, I will say it, because one of on Russian RIGF, I got one question from the crowd: are we doing Balkanization of the internet? Do you have answer to that?
Balkanization of internet is a myth. Is a great myth. Maybe good, maybe bad. I don't know. But I think that if in real life I don't read Armenian text, I don't read Chinese text, it's usually things. I want to repeat that internet is only reflect of our real life. I don't see any trouble in this question.
Okay, Voja?
I will answer with the question, and then I'll give an answer. When you take a look at the whole of internet, what is the language number 2? I mean, number 1 is English. But it's the Greek question. You are Chinese, okay? What other? What? Spanish. Arabic. You are excluded. So when I was recently on a TV station and the interview was finished, I asked the question to the anchor lady, and she said Spanish. And I said, when I was asked that question, I answered Chinese. Why? Because there are 650 million Chinese on internet. But the question is not which is the highest number of users, but the content. So the second is Russian. Yes. Yes. For instance, yes, that's true. When I watch a movie, I often go to IMDb and check on the director, actors, etc. So I watched a Russian movie I went to check on a certain actress, 2 sentences. And then it popped to me. I switched to Serbian Cyrillic keyboard, not Russian, I don't have it installed. Serbian Cyrillic, typed the name as I expected it to be in Russian. I've got hundreds of links, so many interesting stories, so many marriages and children and divorces, just like any Hollywood actors, but in Russia. So just like in the real world, we are not so familiar with the daily subjects or themes or whatever is in societies that speak other languages, except for the news feed that we get from the global agencies. But then when you go to internet, to radio station or a news portal, if you know the language, or if you are close enough, so I can read and understand 80–90% of Bulgarian, Macedonian, 60% of Russian, so I can get myself a part of other stories. I'm sorry, I don't read or I don't know Armenian. So for me, I will support your case for obvious reasons, but I will not be your user. But that's for Armenians. And especially, maybe when you come to think of it, countries that have so many people in diaspora, for them it's important. I had emails from 3rd-generation Americans, born in America, never been to Serbia. But their grandfather was talking to them about Serbia, and now an American in his 40s wants to learn Serbian and to visit Serbia. He's not coming back to live in Serbia, but he feels that connection, and he wants to learn the language. Just as I started, until I was 55, I was using Latin 98% of time. In 55, I made a conscious decision, when I'm writing in Serbian, I switched to Serbian Cyrillic. 80% of my tweets and Facebook posts are in English, but those that are in Serbian, then I decided to make that effort. Yes, it takes effort. You have to press Ctrl-Shift, and then you have to, if you don't have a Serbian keyboard, you have to know that Q is for L and W is for N. But you get the hang of it. So it has, again, it has something to do with identity, personal and national.
Okay, Iliya.
I will answer your question with a question. Isn't having the internet in English only a division by itself? Then people who doesn't speak English cannot access the content online.
Thanks. Lianna, do you have anything?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of division at all. I think internet is for everyone. So it must be, everyone has right to have whatever they want to reach in whatever language they can. So it is up to users, up to everyone to create content in as many languages as possible. And it is another opportunity for people to learn many languages. Probably, that will make
instrumental environment for us.
Yes. So it's a good thing. It's not about going fragmentation, but just on the contrary, to enlarge the opportunity for everyone to use this tool.
Yuriy.
Yes, in support of Lianna, that it's not subject for question balkanization separately. Imagine the big library, the biggest library in the world, and context on your mother languages, but title not on your mother languages, not in the mother language scripts. Okay, for Cyrillic, the content of any book on the Cyrillic, but title in the Latin.
Chinese.
The Chinese content and title on the Latin.
Yes.
It's
Thank
not a question about Balkanization. No. Balkanization of internet is a myth. It's a big myth.
Thanks. Okay, do we have any questions from the crowd? Jean-Jacques?
Thank you. Just a very quick point in addition to all this, because I think to me what's great about the internet is that it's quite the opposite of fragmentation. And I think the internet is it's a unique tool which is at the same time something that embodies globalization and something which can allow local identities to exist and even be reinforced. It marries the global and the local. That's the opportunity we have with things like the IDN, with the efforts that I've heard lots of people mention here about promoting the creation of local content. Actually, we have a chance to have this tool that's both something that brings us all together all over the world, but at the same time that keeps us together as local communities. And that's something we should cherish and nurture and empower more.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rosie from Romania. How local can we go? I have a group of friends. We have a secret alphabet. Can I get a domain name for that?
If you want to go into details, those secret alphabet, this secret alphabet is not part of Unicode, so you cannot go there. Anything else? Panos?
Sorry for taking the microphone for the third time, but I want to say something.
Next time you will be moderator, right?
No, you do a great job, and I could not compare myself to you, but thank you. The thing that I want to say something now is that we all have a device like this. We all have computers of different operational systems, different manufacturers, and they use a lot of applications. These applications, they're not only browsers or email applications, there are a lot of applications. And many people now, they use this instead of computers. So it is a crucial issue for the IDNs. You mentioned at the beginning the story about the Unicode, the update of the Unicode. Somehow, I'm not familiar with this kind of procedure. The updated information, the updated protocols agreed by every interested party, by everybody, should be applied to these also devices and their applications. Because I can see many times Greek here look like little squares. So how can I use the Greek if I cannot have the right Greek stored in the background of the developer of the application? Thank you very much.
Thanks. Do we have anything from remote moderation? Nothing. So, Aleksandar. Is it you? Yes. You are a rapporteur.
Okay. I think this was most interactive session. Correct me if I'm wrong. This session was imagined as it was announced in SEEDIG wiki page as two-part session. First was announced as a quick beginner's guide to DNS and IDNs. We got 4 or more experiences about the process of launching of CCTLD IDNs with exchange of experience and best practices. This would be the first bullet point, and if you all agree, silence will mean consent. Thank you. The second bullet point would be there was a question raised. Do we need IDNs? My conclusion, and I would ask for your help here, would be that IDNs are a valuable tool in preserving national, cultural, and linguistic specifics and diversity, but not to divide internet users, but to bring them all together in a way of bringing internet closest to variety of users. Again?
Panos.
Identities first. Yes. Yeah. So IDNs, valuable tools or tool in preserving national, cultural, and linguistic specific identity. Thank you. And diversity. Any comment? Thank you.
Maybe just to add, unity in diversity, which is not my thought. I borrowed it.
Yes. We can add that. Yes, of course.
Next. There is no. No next. Okay.
No next.
From the remote moderator. So, what is the question?
Hello?
The audio out is on.
Hi, Aleksandar. Can you hear us? Just unmute yourself and say what you want to ask.
Friends which been present here.
Excuse me, Aleksandar. Aleksandar, wait a minute. Could you please? We weren't able to hear you. Can you please start again? Thank you very much.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
I would like to say hello to my friends and colleagues from IDN Industry from Ukraine. A great speech, and also would like to draw attention to other colleagues from our neighbors, just maybe to develop issues raised by Ukrainian colleague, that we do need to unite our forces to draw attention of multinational companies, ICANN, IETF, to push vendors develop software for IDN space of internet. It is a very difficult issue. We just started about half a year ago mailing with experts of IETF dealing with Unicart issues and email internationalization. There will be an event at Prague in 2 months, and these issues could be discussed there. Also, I am not sure if anyone is planning to visit it, but definitely work of IDN, it's partly political and users issue, and half of this issue is devoted to internet engineers. We need to push these guys to develop software to make it possible, firstly, working with email in internationalized emails. And this panel could bring some reference, some request, or some attempt to unite experts from ICANN and from vendors and internet engineers. Thank you. We need to just to consider some advice for the community.
Thank you, Aleksandar. Do you hear me? So I will, as a moderator, give myself to answer this. These technical questions, they are already at ICANN desk. So ICANN was formed one working group, special working group. They call it Universal Acceptance Steering Group. You can join there. Part of the problems that we mentioned earlier with IDN emails and everything else will be solved with this group. If you want details, I don't want to bother anymore. If you want details about that, you can ask me after this session, because I'm co-chair of this IDN thing, so ask me whatever you want. Thanks. It's the end. I will introduce my colleague from organizing team, Aida. We will go immediately into wrap-up session.
Okay, so first of all, give yourself all a round of applause to you. Thank you for applauding me. Harder, you deserved it, come on. Okay. So, yeah, it's been a long day, and thank you everybody for being active actually the whole day. I've been to several IG events, and everybody's kind of keeping it for themselves or their own stakeholder group. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of you maybe forgot what was happening through the day, so we will first have our wrap-up sessions. So I will ask you just for a little bit of your patience and ask our rapporteurs to please step in. So Roxana, if you could please. Yes, I will take your photo.
Thank you very much. There is edited version of wrap-up of the first session. Internet governance can be understood as a process of dialogue, collaboration and cooperation. It's about collective efforts of understanding the different interests and learning to work together towards ensuring an open, global, reliable, trustworthy internet shaped by the multi-stakeholder community. Any objections?
I think they are approving by being silent.
I do not need to wait.
No.
Okay. Internet governance is more about principles than a clear definition. Multi-stakeholderism, bottom-up, openness, inclusiveness, collaboration, transparency, equal footing for all stakeholders. To be involved in global internet governance process, it is necessary to learn, to have a stake and to have a say, to ensure that all actors are able to contribute, but within their own roles and responsibilities. Participation from the Southern Eastern Europe in the global internet governance processes is increasing, and we need to keep this trend going while strengthening the linkages between the realities in the region and the international work on shaping the future of internet. Consolidate awareness raising, engage actors in capacity building initiatives, bring internet governance to them in their own languages to empower them to become active participants in the internet governance ecosystem are some ways forward.
Thank you, Oksana. Anna, could you please? What would we do without phones?
Yeah, so yeah, I actually have it in my notebook, not a smartphone, but I think it's better this way. Oops. Okay, so we have from the session 2 this morning 4 messages approved. 5th one is unclear, so let me read it out. First, on global level, we need to come up with the minimum standards or safeguards for guaranteeing a balanced multi-stakeholder model on internet governance, or to say it short, we need checks and balances for people to trust multi-stakeholder model. Passed. Second, stakeholders do not have to know every bit of details of how policies or laws are made, but decision lawmakers should, and it's crucial for multi-stakeholder model to spend more time on consultation with stakeholders. Also passed. Third, for multi-stakeholder model, it's not necessary inside a entity to have laws or have an official permission from the government to have this model implemented in their organization or entity. Passed. 4. The extent of the government involving in different multi-stakeholder model needs to be discussed. Unclear. I wouldn't say it's not passed. I think it was more vague. I would prefer it to have again voted, but I think it's not possible for now. So let me move to the last one. Not only government should become more active in internet governance, but every involved stakeholders, academia, civil society, etc., should become more active. Having said that and done, digital skills and awareness of internet governance should be developed and raised. Passed. Thanks.
Thank you. Valentina?
Thank you. The main ideas from the human rights session were that human rights apply online as well as offline, but we need to shift the discussion from the theoretical sphere into the practical one. At the same time, we need to take into consideration the online protection of all human rights, not just privacy and access to information. Well, thank you. The lack of awareness over internet users' rights can be observed in all sectors. Therefore, we need to consider human rights compliance guidelines for all actors, industry, government, and users. Jurisdiction represents an important element for human rights enforcement. States as well as business should have efficient and comprehensive mechanisms for human rights redress. Human rights compliance might have a snowball effect in the private sector. If some big companies adopt appropriate human rights-oriented conduct, they might set certain market requirements. And considering all these aspects, more focus should be awarded to finding modalities for connecting the theoretical approach with the practical realities, for example, through effective implementation and application of the law. Thank you.
Aleksandar?
Thank you. Unlike the other reporters, I had only one major topic, that was IDNs. What are they? Do we need them? And I think the general conclusion, now redrafted, it still needs editor's digest, but I think it would be IDNs, valuable tool in preserving national identity, cultural and linguistic specifics and diversity. All this in unity, but we'll see, we'll redraft it. That would be it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will give you a few more information, but before that, just to invite you to visit our wiki, which is, let me not make a mistake, eurodigwiki.org, where you can find more information on processes, and you can also get involved more for the future. You can, well, basically what we're trying to do is to have it next year so we can create a two-way communication. So also I would like to thank the whole team. Lorena, would you please stand up? Bernard, and the rest of tech support. Oh, let me not forget, there was one very interesting wiki because someone was actually paying attention to gender balance in audience, and apparently there is 55% of women today in the audience, which again deserves an applause. So yeah, also we want to thank everybody who were involved and were contributing during these 8 or 9 months until today. And please let me call by name organizing committee. And I also, well, we also have a little presents for them. Iliya. So thank you for being an amazing host, for helping us not get lost around the city and know where to get the best food and etc. You're welcome. Lianna. Can you please read it?
Wow. I'm surprised. I left out high. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is very famous sentence by Dušan that we've been hearing for 8 freaking months. And special thanks goes to one person that today probably wouldn't happen if she wasn't. Yeah, money too. But she was also taking care of that. Serena, could you please come here and please give her huge applause. Okay, so sorry? Okay, Serena, can you? So one important, I mean, you're probably asking if we have drinks because we cannot wrap up this without drinks, right? So at 6:30, it's Vitosha room. At 6, okay, at 6. It's Vitosha room, so we invited there. Sorry? Oh, yeah, okay, another important, sorry for forgetting this. Because today this happened, and at the IGF Internet Governance Forum Secretariat, they heard about it and they also supported it. They gave a special opportunity that they're doing with every other Internet Governance forums, national ones. So they are inviting fellows from Southeast Europe to apply in order to work with them for 6 or 9 months. So you can also visit that on our wiki. And do apply.
And Taida, don't forget that you also have a shirt.
Oh, okay.
It's for you.
Serena with dictator, sorry.
So the dictator is back. One final thing, we have a feedback form and we would like to kindly invite you to fill it in. We need to hear your feedback, your input on how to improve, what went well, what was not that good. So please go to the wiki and fill that in. And thank you all for being here. Maybe before, because after I'm not that sure you'll do it, but please. And again, thanks to the Eurodic Secretariat, to Unicart, to the Ministry, and to everyone here. Thanks a lot.